and welcome back to Daddy. I'm your host, Cynthia Thompson, and do I have a treat for you tonight? You know, this show is just a little different because we're sitting outside, relaxing. It's a nice evening, and I'm with my girls, and we're going to talk about a subject that's pretty important and something that's not uncommon today. But before we start talking about our subject, and I'll tell you what it's going to be about once we get started, let's let them introduce themselves. Let's start with you.
I am Janella Walker, and you were going.
And how many kids do you have?
I have a 15-year-old, soon-to-be 15-year-old son who will be a sophomore, and I have a 13-year-old daughter who will be in the 8th grade.
Wow. And you?
I'm Wanda. I have a 19-year-old daughter, soon to be 20. She's going to start her junior year in college, and I have a 14-year-old going to high school this year.
So teenagers, okay. And my last but not least guest.
I'm Amy, and I have 3 children, 2 boys, 15 and 14, and my daughter is 12.
Wow, you all have kids around the same age. And you also have something else in common. It's our topic for tonight. We're going to talk about how do women go on after divorce raising their kids alone. So you all have kids, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what is that like? Because I don't have kids, never been married. Some say it's a good thing. But tell me, what is that like, raising kids by yourself after divorce?
Well, I think for me, because the father is pretty much still involved in their life, we do feel it. I do feel a difference, but because I was always pretty much the primary caretaker, it hasn't been that difficult of a transition for me.
Huh.
And I don't know how else you describe it. He traveled a lot. He worked a lot. So me being that point person has never really changed. And almost, I hate to say this, has been the divorce kind of helped my children because now they have scheduled time with him that they spend just, with them. So in that regard, even though divorce was a big transition for us, it almost has kind of benefited them because they have concerted, scheduled time with him that they really didn't have before because there was so much reliance on me.
That's a good thing. What about you other 2 ladies? How did that affect your kids after divorce? What was that like for them?
My ex traveled a lot, too, so I was kind of used to that. But the disciplinarian role is probably my biggest thing that I've missed. But
My daughter was very young when we divorced, so she didn't really get to experience that, and he hasn't really been a part of her life, so it hasn't been a transition at all.
Oh, really?
Parent.
Huh. So how do you explain to your kids that your father and I will get in a divorce, but he still loves you? How do you do that, and what did they say when you told them this was going to happen?
Well, my children, this is 6 years ago, so they were a lot younger. And I remember we had a little family meeting around the table and told them, well, they, sadly, they heard it. We fought a lot, so it was kind of obvious. But, it didn't really register with them, I don't think, just at their ages. They just weren't really old enough to really process it. But, we basically just said we think we can be better parents to you if we live separate and apart. We'll just try to be more of a functional family that way. So we didn't really put a lot of emphasis on the what ifs or whatever, because it is what it was what it was.
And so, Janella, you are recently divorced, isn't that right?
We've been divorced 3 years, a year. Separated 3, divorced a year. And for us, my kids were 9 and 10, I believe.
Wouldn't that be about the same age as yours, kind of?
Yeah, yes,
So
6 to...
something in the same range.
Yeah.
But, my kids kind of figured it out, too. We, they would hear the disagreements. And so when it came time for us to split, my ex told them, he said he shared it, which was fine because I wanted it to come from him because he was the one we decided he would be the one to move out. So they were kind of relieved, surprisingly, because they were like, well, we won't hear the disagreements anymore. And I didn't realize that the effect that it had until I left. We even still talk about it today.
When you say we, your kids and
the kids
you?
and I. Yeah. And so I didn't really realize how much it affected them, our differences and the struggles we were going through. So, and then they were pretty wise. They took it better than what I thought they would. They just wanted to know how was Christmas going to be, or how it would be different. What's going to happen? What is that going to look like? As soon as we did that, they were fine. I mean, the children, it wasn't easy, but they understood. And they were more flexible and rolled into it better than I thought they would.
So when you said your kids, well, your one child was very, very young. If she was 10 or 11, what would you say to her?
Well, I did get the question, of course, like, why aren't you with my dad? Or, does he not love me? Or, so I did get questions. Definitely. And even my youngest daughter, they both like, okay, why aren't you with my dad? So I did have to explain we had differences and, just better situation for us to not be together and to get a divorce. So I did have to do some explaining.
Did you all feel like you needed to set up some counseling for your kids in order to help them with this change? Because that is a major change.
I did, because even though my oldest daughter's father wasn't involved, like my ex-husband, it did bother her, because her friends would have birthday parties and the dads would be there, or, go spend a night over someone's house, or, family and the dad was there. So I did get questions. So she did have some, things I think that bothered her that she may not feel comfortable talking to me about. So I did have her go and talk with a counselor, and she felt a little more comfortable expressing some of the concerns that I still to this day don't really know, the extent of them, but she felt better after talking to a counselor. So I thought that was, good of her to say, okay, yeah, I do want to talk to someone. And, because sometimes she doesn't want to talk to me about certain things, and I don't want to push her, but if she needs that outlet, I was able to give it to her through counseling.
And that's a good point. I think I'm glad Wanda said that, because you're still gauging your kids. And I don't know if Amy does the same thing, but you want to make sure that they're okay. As moms, that's what we do. So I'm always checking in. My youngest, my daughter, she went through some counseling.
Oh, really?
And just wanted her to get her feelings out, because I used to ask her, how do you feel about it? She said, Mom, I don't know. So we did get her some help, and it helped her. We may have to revisit it, and especially for my son. He's a teenager, and just by being a male, he's not that, I shouldn't say that, but he is not verbal about it.
Right.
But I want him to have the same chance to talk to somebody. So we'll probably be looking at that if he's still open to it in the coming months.
Amy, did you?
My kids all did counseling initially.
Oh, they did?
When we first separated, yes. And also sadly, at their schools, there were actually support, because they were all in elementary school at the time. There were actually support groups for children in the school that met during school time for children that came from broken homes. So they had that outlet as well.
Oh, that's excellent.
So do you think, like, your kids are teenagers now, do you think that your divorce is going to impact the way they view relationships?
I don't think so. Because my oldest daughter, she started dating, she was almost 16, and so far she's made very wise decisions, and we talk, and she seems to be having healthy relationship thoughts, that the guy that she dated, they were nice and equally yoked, and then he decided not to do well at school, and she was like, that's not a part of my goals. So they decided to, break up, and I was like, wow, that's very mature, very grown up, very wise. I was like, it's like, oh, he was probably like, oh, I'm so sorry, honey, but it's like, yes. So I think that she's so far, and she dated another guy in high school, and they were going to different colleges, and she decided that it might be best just to kind of, break it off and go their separate ways since they were not going to be close together. And I was like, again, I was very impressed. I was like, that's very, smart. Very smart and wise, because I've seen a lot of teenagers get really depressed and sad because, long distance relationships, and they're trying to do college, and they don't need to worry about that. So she felt that was a choice she wanted to make, and I was like,
I am so glad to hear that you all got counseling for your kids, because when I was younger, my parents divorced. And I wonder if I had gotten counseling then, if I would be in a different place as far as relationships are concerned, because I have a very low tolerance for nonsense. And I think that may be a reason why, or I'm not as trusting of men. And I think that's why I'm still single today. But on that note, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this. Hi, and welcome back to Betty. I'm your host, Cynthia Thompson. I'm here with some friends, and we're talking about raising our children after divorce. And we talked about our kids maybe needing someone to talk to after you all have decided that this is just not going to work, and how important it is to keep a handle on them and make sure that they're okay. Can you see a difference in your sons, your daughters since your divorce? Now that they're all teenagers pretty much at this table. Can you see a difference from when you first got the divorce to now, with the way they act at home and interact with others?
No, because they're just growing up, they're in that stage. I think they probably look at relationships differently. My son, who will be 15, just got his first girlfriend, and I'm trying to teach him from a place of be a good friend first, and watch for the things that you see in them that will possibly make them a good mate, which begins with friendship. We talk a lot about respect and trust, and just those things being the foundation of a relationship. So, but him being a boy and being a soon-to-be 15-year-old, he has his own ideas.
Bless your heart.
He's impressionable by his friends. So we're just watching that. But as a mom now, without his father in the home, it's my goal to teach him just how to treat women. So in spite of what he and his father and I have been through, I don't think he looks at relationships in a bad way. He's just in that learning stage. And my daughter, who's a little different, she wants to wait to get married. She wants a family. It didn't really, I think in the beginning she was a little jaded, if you will. I think the counseling helped her. And then fortunately we're blessed to live by a couple that has been married 46 years. So she knows there's longevity in marriage. And I think they both know that, and so they know their mom and dad probably didn't make the good choice in each other. Because marriage is about making the right choice, and we probably just didn't make the right choice in each other. And just try to make a better choice when they choose a mate, that kind of thing. So that's what we talk about.
So have you all seen any changes in your kids since the divorce?
I think so. Like, I struggled with as a family, we struggled, like, they want to blame one parent or the other. So it's like good guy, bad guy, and it's rotated throughout the years. I've been the bad guy plenty of times. My ex has been the bad guy plenty of times. But as they've gotten older, I think they have become wiser to, the truth, I guess. Yeah. And they see a lot more than we give them credit for. And so it's just they've accepted it that it is, they just need to go on and, like you say, make good choices. And you just have to make the choice of being a positive influence for them. So I've seen a pretty decent turnaround. There's a lot less of the blame game going on.
They figure it out.
So Wanda, you divorced early on. Can you add anything to what's been said so far?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, very long time.
I got married very young.
When you were 15, right?
20. I got married at 20, divorced at 25, so it's been a while. Just a couple years.
Just a couple years. So.
Wow.
But I did have to explain, because it was domestic violence involved, that was one of the reasons why. So I do, talk to my daughter. I was like, hey, this is the type of things to look out for and be cautious of and look out for those red flags. Because I didn't recognize them.
Do you think maybe it's because you married so young?
Part of it.
I know surely you were in love, right?
Oh, yeah. Or another L word, but
Oh, okay. Let me take a sip. So for my next question for you all, how do you avoid the conflicts between you being the parent, you the mom, and the dad, and your kids?
Since they're not really involved, I don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have that issue.
But
you two probably do.
That's another show for another day.
It was difficult. Well, it was pretty much difficult when we were together because I was pretty much the enforcer. And he would discipline, but we just disciplined differently. But fortunately, because our kids are older and we've already set the expectations, we don't really have that issue. So they know from early on that there's only so much we will tolerate. The biggest issue we have is just encouraging them through school. I'm the one that pushes because they live the most with me. When they get over there, he pushes in a different way, but it's only when they're with him. Because he didn't talk to them as much when they're with me. So it's just the difference on how we approach school and dealing with friends. So discipline we really don't have that much of an issue with because all you have to do is threaten them by taking their phones and turn off the Wi-Fi.
The gadgets.
the gadgets. So we use the gadgets as the rod of correction. So we do agree on that piece.
So how about you, Amy?
We have good days, bad days. We're on a good program for a while, but then we're just not always on the same page. So we try to work it out. We're still working on that. So.
And they are still kids, right? They're going to live and learn and make mistakes and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, how do you, like a lot of times I was reading before the show about this topic, how do you keep your kids and not like your peer or your second mate in your house? You know what I mean? It's like some mothers, they will make their sons be the man of the house. How do you separate that? Janella.
I'm old school. And then I had my kids older. I was 36 when I had my first child. So it would even be so weird to even try that. My daughter, I had her when I was 38. So because and I'll just say this because I'm an older mom, I just can't even see that being a possibility. I make it real clear to them that I'm the mother. I'm not your friend. I'm not her. So I have never approached that way. And it's probably because I'm an older mom. So.
Amy, what about you?
I've been accused a lot of times by trying to be friends with my children, but I'm not. I'm a fun parent, but I've always maintained to them, I'm your mom first, and I have these expectations, and I'm not going to not have fun with them, just because I am their mom too, but, at the same time, I don't let them just get away with stuff. So there is a fine line where people could misconstrue that kind of relationship, but, I have a very good relationship with all of my children. They're all different, but I have... I have heard people say to my oldest son, "Well, you're the man of the house now."
Yeah.
And I dispel that. I'm like, "No, you are not. You are my son, and you are going to be a kid in this house. There's no pressure on you to do that. And then, my daughter, she says things all the time like, "Mom, I just worry about you. I just want you to be happy." But I've not put that pressure on her. I don't know where that's coming from. I mean, she puts it on herself, but she has this need to want to take care of me or something,
and I think that's just their nature.
It is. I think she's just a naturally nurturing person, hereditary, I guess. But I know. But I tell her all the time, Kennedy, that is not your job to worry about me. I promise, I'm good. So some of it I think is maybe society. I don't know, but they're all precious.
So how do you juggle you could stay with your dad this weekend, you're going to stay with me, or I want you Christmas. How do you all figure out that schedule? Or do you just let the lawyers figure it out?
Divorce decree. We did put in a decree every other weekend, and then we kind of jockey the holidays. It's in the decree too. But I told him, I said, we shouldn't have to let a decree tell us when you need to spend time with your kids. And so we work it out.
I tried doing the summer, like maybe letting them go with the family during the summer, and then I found out a couple times with the oldest one that wasn't a great idea, and I still tried to stay positive about it. And when she got older, she understood why I was kind of hesitant, and it's been her decision since to kind of either have the relationship with her dad or to not. But he's still a little special. So she has tried. And then with the youngest one, I sent her down, and they took her to get her ears pierced without asking. And she was 9, and I'd never gotten her ears pierced because she has like really weird skin. And of course, it did something damaging to her ears. So kind of haven't sent her back since things. I'm like, if you don't have enough sense to, and then he wasn't really around because he was working. So I was like,
So Amy, how do you work out the custody thing?
Well, it's established by the divorce decree, but we've been very flexible too. So we just kind of work it out between ourselves. So,
what would you two do if your daughter said, "I just want to stay with you. I don't want to be bothered with Dad"? Would you be okay with that?
No.
Why not?
Well, first of all, it's not her decision.
Okay.
At least not now. Because my daughter's an emotional child, so I have to talk her through it. And so, not at this point. I think I think we had it at one time. She kind of played with it just to see what I would say. And once I told her, I said, he's your father too, just like I'm your mother. and you have to give them a chance.
Uh-huh.
You know, just like you give me a chance. And I think sometimes if they do say that, it's because they're mad at the moment. And I told them, you get mad at me.
Yeah.
You know, and just because he's not here doesn't mean you get mad at him and say, I can't go. Because so it's an emotional. And they're kids, and you have to talk it through it. And that's how I said it.
Or like one that hers was old enough to make that decision on her own.
Exactly. And they get to a place where they're just going to be too busy. You know, they're already talking about getting jobs and doing these other things.
Oh, that is
and
right.
There just won't be time, you know, or there just won't be the quality time. So we just have to work it out as they get older.
What about you, Amy?
I've actually experienced that. Kennedy, you know, I guess it's an age thing too. I mean, girls just want to be with their moms. I think boys want to be with their dads, and that's just a natural reaction. I think for kids to want to be with that parent, they want that role model. But and she did stay with me more, but then I wouldn't not allow her to not go see her dad. Right. I mean, because she needs that relationship too. Exactly. You know, she still needs that influence, and they need to keep that relationship going. You know, it's so I respect where they're coming from, but again, like you say, it's not really their decision because they don't know in the long run what's healthy for them too. So they
get upset, they get mad, and it's just not because they're mad.
And they can't, and you can't let them think that that's an option just because things aren't going your way. You can just run away to the other parent's house. Exactly. And you do kind of need to maintain a front. Exactly.
So tell me, how do you keep your feelings about your ex from your kids? I'm sure you would like to call him several selected words that we are not going to repeat here. But how do you not say those words in front of your kids?
It's practice that you wind up reminding me of that. And then sometimes I'm human and I say some things that I probably shouldn't, and I ask them to forgive me. I say, you know, because mom, you know, is going off sideways. He's still your father. I was wrong. You know, because I don't want them to ever think just because their dad and I had issues that they have to be mad at him or they have to be mad at me. So I hope he tries too, that we just don't do that through bombs, and you know, because in the end it's not good for them. Right. They didn't choose this situation. They didn't choose any of this, so it would be unfair for me to do that. And thank God we try to keep it straight. Civil. Yeah, civil.
And as a single parent, I'm constantly coming to their defense.
Yeah.
You know.
What do you mean their defense?
The dads.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I have the ex-husband and then who wanted to marry me. I had to explain it to her. I was like, yeah, he wanted to marry me, but I didn't want to. But, you know, like my youngest one, she has this horrible habit of saying he's dead. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, he's a deadbeat. I'm like, no, he's not. Yeah. It's like he does what he's supposed to do. He just, you know, you can reach out to him as well. So I have to constantly kind of defend him. And then like my oldest one, I remember one day she was on the phone with him and he had made her really mad. And she was like, I hate you. And she was going to go off. And I said, oh, stop. Hold on. I said, that is still your dad. You will show him respect. It's like, it doesn't matter how you feel right now. He is your father. You will show him respect. And, you know, and he heard me telling her that on the phone. So I guess like he was like, yeah, thanks. But I mean, it's true. It's you know, that's without him, she would not be here no matter what happened. So I do have to kind of be the buffer in between, regardless to what I really think. I have to say, okay, respect your parent.
And you have any trouble with that?
I am very guilty of saying some not kind things, which I would also apologize for. But also for all the bad things I may have said, I've also offered praise and given him compliments of some good things that he still does. And it does get better with practice, like you say. So, but it is sometimes it's really hard, but you. Yeah, but I've been very guilty many times.
I'm a good actress.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yes.
I could probably get an Academy Award.
With that, let's take a short break. When we come back, I got one last question for all of you. Okay? Hi, welcome back to Betty. I'm your host, Cynthia Thompson, here with some of my girlfriends. We're talking about raising kids after divorce. And I have one last question for you because we are almost out of time. Wow. My last question for you is, what would you tell your younger self today? Give you just a couple seconds to chew on that question. Any takers to go first?
I was like, run. That knight in shining armor, act as an act. I mean, I did enjoy being married. He was wonderful while we were married. I was happily married. I'm happily divorced. But I would have told my younger self to pay attention to red flags. Like even the tiniest red flag about an inkling of a question. Pay attention to that and stop and be like, you know, and then just pay attention to those red flags and maybe get counseling or something if there was, you know, earlier on with while we were married or whatever, or date longer because we only dated for 9 months before we got married. So,
Wow.
and then plus, I would have waited, not got married at 20, maybe pushed it off to maybe 24. Who knows? It might have been the same results. I don't know.
You never know.
Yeah.
Next.
I would say the same thing. Just don't be in such a rush about it. And I would definitely say you should read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. That's a good read. And premarital counseling. Because even the best of relationships can stand to have
That's
some
true.
guidance and advice. And really just get to know all facets of your relationship, like their family, let them know your family, because that can sometimes be issues. And just, like you say, just get that friendship, get that solid foundation of friendship going.
That's true.
I think you guys both summed it up. And me being, I didn't get married till I was 34. So
34.
I thought I had seen it all. And so to piggyback on what my sisters at the table said, I think you just kind of give it time. Don't rush it. Don't get caught up in everybody else. You need to be married because I was older. You need to hurry up and get married. So I got caught up. I really did. And I missed all of the red flags. I didn't look at the red. I mean, I wouldn't say I missed.
You accepted them.
Yeah.
I started putting them in my pocket. And then just spending time with that person and observe them and how they treat others. The family members, friends, even strangers. We want to finance. That's a whole other issue. You got to talk about in premarital counseling. You can see how people address finance.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest part you can't see is how people deal with stress in marriage. And my biggest challenge was I had watched my parents who had been married 40 plus years. And so in watching them, you don't really understand what it takes to keep that together. You just say, oh, it just happens. It just comes together. But you really have to look at that person and try not, if you think you got to start changing them, that's when you need to back up 20 feet.
Wow. Thank you, ladies, for coming today. It's a nice evening out here. We had a nice conversation. And, I was kind of afraid when we started talking about this, I was going to see some tears and crying. But I'm glad that you all came so that you could educate our young girls and maybe some of our young men to really think about these things before they say, I do. Okay? And thank you for coming. You got to come back. Okay. All right? And I want to thank each and every one of you for watching my show, A Better You, here on Public Access 21 every Wednesday night at 6 p.m.